Hello, my loves. Okay, here it is. We made it to November. Can you believe it? November soul message. So before I start, I want to just let you know, if you're watching this on Instagram, the full video will be available. There's either a link in my bio for November soul message, and then that will take you to my website where the blog and the video both live. And then if you swipe left, there's a second page in my bio that has the YouTube videos, and you can watch it right there. So I just want you to know that, because these are always too long to fit on Instagram. So there's so much happening. Welcome to the November soul message. First of all, there's so much happening, and there were like multiple titles that wanted to come in, multiple oils. And so I'll just start by saying the whole thing feels like a layer cake. There's so much happening. I'm going to try to get through all of the layers and to walk you through a bit of what's happening, but it feels like one of those months where each week is going to feel a little bit different. And like there's this kind of unwrapping of a gift that is happening. So first of all, let's talk about Mercury Retrograde, because that happened in the majority of October. The integration phase ends November 2nd. So we're just really like truly finishing it November 2nd. And then what it feels like is November is almost like we're unwrapping a gift that we received because of Mercury Retrograde. So the difficulty, all the stuff that we learned there, all the stuff that we unpacked. Well, let me say that again. All the things that we learned, which was a whole lot. November is the unpacking of that, the sorting, the organizing, the clearing. So as I talked about in the full moon ceremony, the full moon in Aries in October, there's this energy of, has been this energy of fullness. Like there's so much, because of all the Mercury retrogrades that I've been paying attention to in my life, that was the most intense one. So it feels like so much was revealed, and there's a hardness, there's a bittersweetness, there's a difficulty in it, there's a tenderness in what was revealed. There's a sense of, there's so much humility, ego death, all of this that had to come through because it was the great reveal. Remember, well, not the great reveal from July, but the cards for October were Eros and Apocalypsis. So it is the veil of deception, the desire, the passion, what you are here to do, what you want to do, revealed behind the other side of the veil of deception. So it feels like a lot has been shifted and moved, and there's just a heaviness in the air at the beginning of November here with all of that information. I mean, for me, usually by the midpoint, definitely by the end of the 3-week Mercury retrograde cycle, where it's actually retrograde, not the 2 weeks before and not the 2 weeks, integration, you've gotten your lesson and you know what you're doing with it. But even here in the integration phase, as I'm recording this, I can feel there's more information still being revealed. So like I said, it feels like November is this way that we're going to be unpacking it kind of all month. And we'll see what comes up in December. Maybe it's going to be that we're really unpacking it the whole rest of the year. So this soul message is called Let It Go. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, the Frozen movie, which I do recommend watching this month. If you don't have kids and you've never seen it, it has a very sweet message, and it's connected to all of this. So let's start with that, because there is so much tenderness. So there's like, this frozenness around our hearts, that we have been seeing the world without a sense of play, without a sense of freedom, without remembering the childlike wonder that we had as kids, the way that we could see everything and be like wide-eyed and, wondering about it. And I feel like this Mercury retrograde kind of helped us see the lies that we were believing about ourselves, the lies we were believing about other people. And that might be, difficult, painful things that we didn't want to see. And it might also be like, oh, wow, that person really, didn't mean that thing that I thought they did. And I'm seeing a light and a truth that brings lightness to my heart. It can go both directions. But there's this way that we've been a little bit frozen and stuck in habitual patterns and not unpacking it, not moving through the layers, not seeing the multidimensionality of all of us. And there's a reclamation of wild energy that's coming through too, which is why I have my wolf earrings on, or my deer earrings and my wolf ring. There's this sense of like needing the fierceness of the wolf as it reclaims and rebalances the forest, and then we need the gentleness of deer as well. So let's see. So the title is Let It Go. And the image that I was shown, which is the image for this month, is a rainbow pinwheel. And when I first saw that, I was like, what's going on with this? And as I sat with it, the very first thing that I saw was like we are the pinwheel, arms stretched out, and we're spinning. And there's a lot of stagnation in the lymph under the arms, the shoulders, the neck, a little tightness in the jaw that I'm feeling, and like this heaviness on the lungs and heart. And so I think that's why this sense of like the frozen heart, the movie, like all of those things that are coming in. And it's interesting because the energy unfolded like a layer cake also. So if you're only looking at the surface of, let it go, that sounds easy, and the pinwheel spinning and all of that and the lymph drainage, it's like, oh, okay, we're releasing this month. But it's more than that. It's unpacking, it's sorting, and there's a play that lives underneath that too. The pinwheel is a child's toy. And so there's a call back to our childhood, back to our innocence, back to our, wild nature, to speak of the wolf again. And so it really is, it's challenging. Like I'm struggling to come with the words with it because there's so much here. So as far as the pinwheel and the lymph drainage and all of that, it's like there's so much heaviness for everything that we have received in October. It's almost like a tree's, the sap dripping off a tree. It's full. And so there is a release quality, but there's also an unpacking, a sorting, a determining what's mine, what's yours, what stays, what goes. And then underneath that, because in order to do that, some of the challenge that came up in October, and I think is still going to move through in November, is this challenge of ego death and having to fall off of your own pedestal, and other people in your lives also falling off pedestals. Systems of control falling off pedestals. Like, so there is a bittersweet tenderness, right? Like even in the movie Frozen, I mean, even in that, or if you think about a frozen heart, there's joy, there's freedom in the heart melting and the warmth of that returning, and kind of the reclamation of freedom, the reclamation of joy. That's all positive, healthy, helpful energy to move through. But there's a challenge that lives within it. Freedom is not free. You have to work for it. You have to claim your own freedom. That's the masculine, feminine working together. And we're still, there is still that masculine, feminine balance that we're trying to come into. And there's a little bit of the warrior energy that's moving in over from October that's still here. Because, for wolves to be reintroduced into the forest to rebalance the forest, that is not an overnight thing. It takes time. And so there's a piece of time here, and there's a piece of, difficulty. It's like when you exercise or, you know, you're working out, it's like you have to call that fire from the belly. You have to pull it up from the earth to be able to do, you know, ab work or core work or whatever. It's like the gift that you get out of that is beautiful, but there's grit, there's work, there's difficulty in it. So there's pain also underneath in seeing what was always there. You know, the reveal energy that came through in October, everything that came forward in that Mercury retrograde, it's painful. It's difficult to see those truths about yourself, about other people, about the world. And it's also really bittersweet and tender to find out that things weren't the way that you thought they were, and maybe you thought they were more limiting than they actually are. It's like, you know, the story of the elephant being chained to the tree, and once the elephant is, the chain has been removed, the elephant is so used to being by the tree it doesn't realize it's unchained anymore. And it's kind of like that. Like we're waking up to the places where we don't have freedom that we thought we did, and we're waking up to places where we do have freedom that we didn't realize that we did, and that it's always here. And oh, there's this other piece of like almost eating crow energy that's challenging, that's like, oh God, I have to see that thing about myself, or I have to realize that I was wrong in this area. And that can be really painful. And there's, you know, again, like the falling off the pedestal and, you know, the ignorance that we carried, and to come into congruence with the outside inside, we have to see where we were wrong. You know, there's that difficulty. And then in terms of the rainbow pinwheel, the image, I feel like the colors of the rainbow on the pinwheel are a little bit significant or signifying the layer cake that's going on in November. There's just so much. So there's the unpacking, the sorting, the organizing. There is the release of what no longer serves. So there's freedom here, but there's an action that's required for the freedom. It isn't just coming. So there were several names that this month was going to be. And, you know, freedom to play was one of them, reclamation of freedom. But I ended up with let it go, because that feels like the best version, but letting it go isn't always easy. So there's a challenge in it. There's a call to action. The freedom isn't just coming, and the play isn't just coming. We have to work over the awkwardness and even allow ourselves some space and time for awkward play, where we're so out of the habit of play as adults that we don't remember how to bring in some fun and joy and, you know, kind of pep it up. So 3 things that I wanted to talk about for this month. The 3 suggestions are tune out to tune in. So there is this, it's almost like, you know, we need to go into the cave a little bit as we start to go into winter here. We need to go into the cave a little bit, tune out, to tune into ourselves, to really spend some time with what's happening with that inner child. Where are we being called to look? Because if we're not paying attention, we're going to miss the lesson that's trying to find us. And we're going to miss that mix of play and struggle, that mix of play and work. And then the second thing is detox. I mean, if ever there was a time to do a cleanse, to get your supplements going, to flush it out, that was another name that this whole month was going to be, because there is a flushing, there's a release energy that's going on. So, you know, hydrating, salt baths, like all the ways that you can think to detox. And then play, of course. Even, like I said, even awkward play. Like we have to kind of lean in. I mean, maybe it's playing a physical game on a weekend, or maybe it's just playing, like horsing around and doing nothing. There's this way that we need to give ourselves a little bit of boundaried time in order to let the fun come in. And it sounds awkward to be like, okay, why are we bringing structure into play? But it's a little bit like the riverbank has to be shored up for the river to flow. Otherwise it would just spill, out everywhere. And so there's this way that we need to almost bring in kind of boundaried time to allow that play. And that can mean even like, okay, I'm going to take the day to shut my phone off and I'm not going to communicate with the outside world so that I can really tune into what's happening inside in me and what's happening inside in my home. So there's all of that. Then I'm going to do the card here, but the other piece that I want to, I am serious about the Let It Go watching Frozen, but I also think it would be fun to listen to Beyonce's Freedom, just to give you a little bit of like, that energy of like, yeah, it's work. It doesn't just come, And so I think that's really cool. And then I'll talk about the oil here after we do the card. Okay, what is it going to be? Oh, interesting. Okay, we have another initiation card. And I believe this is the last card in the deck. And it's Anana Mundi. And it is the soul of the world, all that is. Anana Mundi epitomizes the principle accept all, reject none. Okay, you can't make this shit up, because this is what I'm talking about. The energy that's here is like we have to accept what we're seeing and reject none of it. And so there's a grief. I think that's why I'm feeling this heaviness on the lungs and the heart and this kind of frozen quality, but the ice is melting and we're getting to the softer side. We're getting to the, center of the Tootsie Roll Pop kind of thing. And reject none, which means not rejecting others, but also not rejecting ourselves. So that's just me saying that. But the card says, simply put, it is the living soul of the world in all its multifaceted, multidimensional layers, bonded together by loving cosmic forces. So there's that layer cake again, and the rainbow pinwheel, and that there's multiple aspects. And it feels like, I may even have to come on and give some short little blurbs throughout the month of energy by the week, because it feels like there's so much. And I really my heart is with you and with all of us, and as I feel this tenderness, because there is some grief here that needs to be purged too, as we see the truth in things. Diversity is celebrated, multiplicity is honored, and nothing is denied embrace, including all the pain, I'm just saying. Okay, constructs of separation dissipate into the wonderful mess of shared consciousness. So even though we think we're separate, right, there's this element that we're not separate, and there is a wonderful mess of shared consciousness, which is also kind of, the accepting all, rejecting none. Anana Mundi is the link between the literal and the imaginal, the rational and the mythic, and I would say also the masculine, feminine. It is the connective fiber that makes life meaningful. This card indicates an initiation on the level of the soul, and that's so great that it says that, because there is a quality of underworld going on here that we have to go down, but it doesn't feel like we're going down to stay down there all month. It feels like we're dipping in and we're feeling kind of the underworld in each of the things that was revealed in the Mercury retrograde, and then making sense of that. So you will awaken the unique light within and witness how this light contributes to the radiance of the entire universe. Okay, so this is another piece, because it's about seeing the light that you are, that you always were, but maybe you weren't claiming. And that's part of that freedom, that reclamation, that play. It's almost like we have to get in touch with that play and that freedom to even remember who we are, to remember who we wanted to be when we were kids. Who were we before we were born? It's all of those questions, but we have to touch into it to reclaim it. You will sense yourself as a critical note in the cosmic orchestra. Destiny is altered as you hear the enchanted melody of all living things. So that's another important piece, because seeing yourself as the critical note in the cosmic orchestra. So seeing yourself as a critical note, but also everyone else, like what they're contributing, and honoring the beauty and the reverence that, each individual person offers. So when light, tending to the sacred details of life; when dark, overwhelmed by the bigness of existence. To go deeper, alchemical drawings of Anana Mundi, the life and paintings of Hilma of Clint. The embrace of Anana Mundi is available anytime, anywhere, to anyone, day or night, rich or poor. It is a process of unveiling our resistance to its love. That is the frozen, that is the melting heart. And remember, we had the unveiling from last month. So it is a process of unveiling our resistance to its love. And that's what's so challenging. There is like, a thickness, a heaviness, a resistance. And when you think about let it go, it seems like it's easy. But if you have a death grip on it, it's not so easy. You have to get in touch with that inner wounded child that's hanging on to it. And why are they hanging on to it? And it might be because you're afraid to be seen, because you're afraid to finally come out and share and show your gifts. And so you're hanging on to the familiar, what you know. Anana Mundi is the energy behind the World card in the tarot deck. Both carry themes of universal unity, completeness, and embrace. So this is about loving all aspects of yourself. And of others, the good, the bad, the ugly, the messy, the all of it, and realizing that you really have to have both in order to be holding both aspects of yourself and seeing the blessing in the curse. It's all of that kind of stuff. So again, Anana Mundi. And then the oil for this month. So much like the multi-layered, faceted energy that we have going on here, that I feel like I feel like I barely scratched the surface of it. And but it's hard to get in and grab it all. So there were 4 oils that showed up this month, and I thought, this is really interesting what's going on, and it's a version of that multi-layer cake. And so I had to tune in and go, okay, there's all of these energy and aspects are here, but which one is the most true? So of the 4 oils, joy, because we have to have joy, we have to have that play-like, childlike quality. Celebrate, because we want to celebrate what we have already accomplished, everything that we've already been through, the challenge of the last 2 years, but especially, the last year that we're living, now that we're, getting close to wrapping up. And then there's humility. And there is a function of humility. We have to be humble in order to kind of let it all be one, to see the love in all of the things, instead of positioning and, arcing ourselves and being imbalanced in our body, where we're living only in the masculine and we're not allowing the feminine to be there. The pedestal that we've put our masculine on, the linear world. Okay, so the most stunning thing just happened. As I was in the middle of the November soul message, I looked down and realized that it stopped recording, because my storage on my phone was full. If that isn't the most brilliant, beautiful metaphor for what I'm trying to talk about. So I was talking about the 3 oils that came forward, or all 4 oils that came forward in the month. Joy, celebrate, humility, and I talked about those, but it cut off before I talked about the oil that I landed on, and that was freedom. And it's because freedom is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's where we're going in the whole thing. It's what we're trying to get to. So yes, there's an aspect of humility that's necessary. Yes, there's an aspect of celebration for what we've already gone through that's necessary. Yes, there's an aspect of joy. But what we're really arcing towards is freedom, is releasing ourselves from the chains that bind, allowing the ice around our heart to melt. So just beautiful. And then the other piece that came through is, as I was sitting here talking, a card fell off the deck onto the floor. And since the camera was off, I was able to look at what card it was. So I'm going to read it because it feels like it wants to come in here too. And look at the rainbow. and it's the box. And it feels like there's this dualistic nature, right? I talked about the, Anata Mundi and the freedom that's coming through there. But the box, how great. It's like we're removing ourselves from the box. So the card says the cage, the rules, the norm. We all live to some degree within the confines of the box. This archetype represents everything that is known, anticipated, and expected. It holds us in place while simultaneously holding us back from our greatest visions. This is what we've been doing to ourselves. The box is sneaky, insidious, and everywhere, limiting us at the most unconscious levels. It is built of layer upon layer of social constructs and pressures. Breaking through its confines requires awareness, continued effort, and bravery. The box may appear as expectations from parents, a well-paying but heartless job, the pressure to look or behave like others, or simply to stay small. There is a box around you now made of some type of confining thought. What is it? The box shifts and morphs as we grow. This is part of its multi-layered nature. I mean, there's the layer cake right there. Once you break through one layer, another will present itself to you. Keep going, break through. An exquisite life requires it. And what I love too is, I have a client in 20 minutes. And so there's also an aspect of like the squeeze game. I've got to get this video finished so that I can move on to the next thing. And I had to unpack apps off of my phone to make space for the recording. When light, structure, order, coherence, logic. When dark, limitation, rigidity, judgment, fear. To go deeper, Richard Serra, 1 ton prop, House of Cards. Moving outside of the box is exhilarating and expansive, but destabilizing. Others will wonder what you are doing and why. You will too. This is part of the process. It's like a little bit like you think you're going crazy. Oh, this is too much. I can't even handle it. Everything within the box is known. Everything outside the box is unknown. That is why it is more comfortable to stay within its walls. Choose freedom is the last word in the card. I did not read this before coming back on camera. So we have both of these hanging out. Okay, this is too much. I can't even stand it. The multi-layer, and I don't remember, I think it was in the recording that I said. This oil smells like chocolate mint. It smells like a kid having dessert before dinner. It's the reckless abandon that's just like, I don't really care. I'm doing it anyway. Okay, so recommendations for this month, actually watch Let It Go or watch Frozen. Listen to Beyonce's Freedom because I love it. There's just like a grit that is necessary in the freedom. And then the moon ceremonies this month, the new moon is November 4, the full moon is November 19. You can find the link in my bio to sign up for any of those, and you can come live or watch the replay. All right. Love you all. Namaste. What a beautiful, beautiful month. And I love how this video even unfolded in its own layer cake. Like this is exactly how it was supposed to go. So anyways, love you all. Blessings. Have a wonderful month. Namaste.